So you just graduated nursing school and you're applying for jobs and you're thinking to yourself, is a PRN a good shift? Is it a good idea even for a new nurse to work PRN? Actually, can new nurses even get PRN jobs? I'm going to talk about all of that in this video. But before I get into that, if you're not already subscribed, I want to go ahead and invite you to hit that subscribe button on this channel. I talk about all things related to nursing student, and of course, nurse life. And so let's go ahead and talk about it because surprisingly, there's a lot of new nurses and soon to be graduated nursing students who actually wonder if this is a possibility for them. And there are actually a decent number of benefits to working PRN jobs as a nurse, but I do think that there are some pretty substantial disadvantages to working PRN as a new nurse. So let's go ahead and take a step back and let's make sure that we are all on the same page about what PRN nursing position actually is. So just to kind of nerd out a little bit, PRN actually means pro renata in Latin, meaning like as needed or as the situation demands. And pretty much as the translation states, it's positions where, it's not full-time, it's not part-time, it's just like positions that pretty much fill the gap when there's gaps, either because they don't have, the facility doesn't have enough regular staff, or maybe that the regular staff are, on vacation or called in or something like that. And so, these can be, at times considered maybe like temporary positions, but I think, more or less for most facilities like PRN positions are more or less like permanent, positions as, generally speaking. But I think the crucial thing to note is that PRN positions are not regular staff. And this is where I think as the new nurse, this is very, this can be very like kind of disadvantaged. But, this could be a con for you. And so it's generally speaking why I would not recommend a new nurse to take a PRN position. And if you're wondering, can you even find PRN positions for new nurses? Yeah, you can find PRN positions for new nurses. They're not genuinely common because, as you'll see in a second, like it's just not a very good position for a new nurse to fill. But hospitals, short staff, or whatever the case may be, they will at times hire new nurses for the PRN positions. It's not unheard of. So with all of that said, what are the reasons why this is not really a good idea for a new nurse to take PRN position? Well, the first reason, which I've already kind of stated, is that it's not regular staff positions. And so in many cases, you're not really going to be working a 40-hour shift a week. Or, if you're doing 312s, that would be 36. In many positions, you're not going to get that. And in some instances, like you might not even get regular shifts. So if you take a PRN position, for example, on a unit that's well staffed, right? So there you might go maybe a week or two without actually having a position filled. That's not uncommon. And I've actually have been in a situation like that myself in the past. And so what that means is that you might maybe work 1 week, maybe not the next week. You might work maybe 2 shifts this week, maybe not the next week, or whatever the case may be. And this is not good for a new nurse who, you're still learning. And one of the best ways to kind of break in as a new nurse in the nursing field to get comfortable is by having that repetition. by doing the same thing over and over and over again. So for instance, if you're on a med surg floor, NICU, ICU, whatever the case may be, ER, and so you get in that position, and so there's a lot that you don't know, but you're still you'll have a lot of opportunities to learn because you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, a lot of repetition. The other thing is that what you will see is that in many cases, you won't have as much resources available to you as a new nurse in a PRN position as you would if you were a new nurse in a full-time position. And the reason being that the hospital's not as invested in you. Like because you're not a core staff, you're not a regular staff. As far as they're concerned, you're a PRN staff that, probably working multiple jobs and you could leave, the next day. And so they're not as invested. And I think as a new nurse, you need as much resources supporting you as possible. That's going to be very hard to do when the facilities themselves, they're just not as invested in you. So what would I recommend? If you are considering working PRN, like you just graduated nursing school and PRN is what you want to do, because truth be told, there are benefits, like I said before, to working PRN. Like if you don't need the benefits, like let's say you have a spouse that already has benefits, then one of the great perks is you'll have a higher base pay. But like I said, if you don't need the benefits, then it's a positive for you. So what would I recommend? I would generally recommend going in, working as a full-time nurse in whatever specialty or whatever facility that you would like to work in at, PRN. So let's say you wanted to, work PRN in the ICU for like general hospital. Then what I would recommend is make sure you get all of the kind of like the benefits and the support that you'll get. Then after a year, I would say at least a year, ideally getting closer to 2 years, honestly, then move over to a PRN position. So something else to kind of note is that there are some facilities who they'll hire you, right? They'll hire a new nurse for a PRN position, but they might require that you still go through like the nurse residency, or if they have one, or whatever other programs or whatever that they have for new nurses. So that might still be a requirement. In some instances, that's probably a good thing. But depending on what your situation is and why you wanted a PRN position in the first place, that might be a con. So that is something I would definitely recommend that you have that conversation with that nurse recruiter as you're applying for positions, as you're trying to figure out what hospital is going to best suit your needs. So with that said, make sure to check out the job board at nursemoneytalk.com/jobs to start looking for nursing positions out there, whether PRN, full-time, part-time, or whatever. And then also, if you have a question that you would like answered and, possibly answered, featured on either the YouTube channel or on the blog, you can go to nursemoneytalk.com/ask. And then you'll have an option to either record, voice record what your question is, or you'll have an option to type out whatever your question is. So definitely check those out, check those resources out. Link will be in the descriptions below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you very soon in that next video.